Hello, listeners, and welcome to yet another podcast of Changepreneurs. We are a team of coaches and passionpreneurs who bring to you conversations that spark change. I am Shrish, a life and a leadership coach, and co-hosting this episode with me is Sunil Satyendra, popularly known as COC, Coach of Coaches, and is also an author. Today, we are joined by Payal Jindal Khanna, an award-winning coach, educator, and author. Now, Payal prefers short introductions and likes conversations to flow like a coaching session. And this is what it's going to be today. It's going to be beyond titles, but exploring her journey, her accomplishments, and her vision for the future. Welcome, Payal. And we have to thank you first for agreeing to come and spare your time for this. So, before we dive into the journey, Payal, I've been very curious ever since I came in contact with you and saw your work. You always seem to be calm, composed, and in control of things, no matter what the situation is, what is the magnitude of the event. How do you manage that?
Very kind. A few of you must acknowledge Shrish, Sunil, and Satish. And you're very kind and generous in your words of praise. I would say I wasn't like this maybe earlier. I've learned to trust the process, Shrish, as the conversation we were just having before we started the recording. I used to be a very quiet person, sometimes also known as a person who was could get very moody. So I think my Buddhist practice, my coaching practice, the work within, um, maybe is what you see today.
Payal, if you were to introduce yourself with
Mhm.
only words that start with P, how would you introduce yourself? I know I am putting you on the back foot for the first this thing.
All right, there's a story behind it. Can I share that?
Oh yes,
I love
absolutely. We are all for it.
it. So Sunil, what happened? I was working in this organization. I just joined the organization, and they were doing the induction program and the orientation for everybody, the new batch that had come in. I would stay away from naming the organization, but this was back in Bangalore. And we were all moving around the room. And post lunch, the organizers, the hosts, and the people at the organization, they had they started handing out these small badges to each participant, and we were very curious, what it is. So this lady comes to me and she hands over the badge to me and says that you can take it on. And uh, the word "poise" was written on that badge. And I was pleasantly surprised that in a matter of few hours or even less, they were able to so keenly observe, name it, and then also, acknowledge and present it to the participants who are joining the organization. So that memory has stayed with me because I thought that was very mindful and thoughtful practice that the organization did, and for the people to see me for who I was. So yeah, poise.
Wonderful.
Wow, very interesting. So is that the only P, or is that are there other things? I somehow feel there is a playful there somewhere. So
Okay. So since you are prodding me, which also begins with a P, um, may I share something that does not define me as a P?
go ahead, please.
Absolutely.
More the merrier.
Right. So, Sunil, word passion, right? I mean, everybody so passionately uses the word passion, and somehow I've never been able to bring myself to understand this word. And this is, I would say, this is my shortcoming because I was never able to understand what passion truly means. I mean, the depth of the meaning of that word, and also if I am passionate about something. And would I even ever get to know that there's a passion that I have? So again, I think the workshops and the trainings or the interactions or discussions or forums that I've attended or conferences, conclaves for that matter, have really helped me understand myself. So I consider myself fortunate that I was at the right places, with the right people at the right time. So I was asked to introduce myself again, as you did in that one of those forums, and and they were asking about what is the work that we do and what are our passions. So when the mic came to me, and I knew that I would not use the word passion because I don't even understand what that means. So I said, I spoke about I spoke about my love, things that I love to do. So for me, from that day onwards, love has become synonymous with passion. So maybe passion does not define Payal, but love does. But yes, love does not begin with a B. You allow that.
Fascinating.
So for this podcast, we'll take PS silent here.
Right. But if you translate it into Hindi, then it is.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, still
Okay.
comes back.
So I think it is
Um,
acceptable. Right?
okay. So Pyle, take us back the memory lane.
Yeah.
How it all started, your journey as a child, as a teenager, formative years, how they made you the person that you are today.
Hmm. So at any point in time, it is very difficult to capture our life journey, right, Shrish? And that too in such a short period of time. But if I were to attempt to share, I used to be a very quiet person. I was a very keen observer and never a participant. You could have easily called me naive back then, and I was always on my guard, definitely on my guard. For a very long time, I stayed in my head, in my shell, and I was trying to make sense of the world around me from a distance. But over time, as I shared earlier, through study, through coaching practice, and most importantly, my Buddhist practice, I started to open up. Now, this opening up was enabled by the fact that I learned to trust the world more, to explore, and most importantly, to risk being seen. So, who I am today and what you see today is someone still on that journey, but learning to move from silence into expression, from guardedness into connection. And that journey shapes how I work with others today. So, from my childhood to my teenage to my adolescence to adulthood, has been from quiet to expression, if I have to sum it.
Wow, interesting. And you brought up coaching and Buddhism as a practice. So how did both of them find you? And you can use long form answers, 100-mark answers, 10-mark answers, 1-mark answer, whatever that works.
Oh, I love that. I love that freedom. Okay, if I understood it correctly. So I can go. I mean, these are very short answers, or essay type answers, right?
Essay type answers, all are open.
Okay. So, just a bit of a context to before I speak about how I was introduced to coaching and to the practice. So it was actually the reverse. I was introduced to the Buddhist practice back in 2005, and to the coaching practice, I would say fairly 2017-18. So, being a person who has spent her life exploring how people grow, right, in the quiet, from behind, from a distance, um, when I came across the Buddhist practice, I somehow I found calm in the community that I was introduced to. I'll tell you, I was very hesitant in the beginning, and I used to be, again, only an observer in what the practitioners did. But slowly and gradually, I became a practitioner myself. So I think that beautiful encounter with Buddhism was somehow the precursor to the fact that I was to be more comfortable and more accepting of the coaching practice when it came along my way. And I've been sharing this quite a lot that, when I was undergoing my coach training or coaching education as we call it today, every single session with the mentor coach and with the cohort, I would think to myself that both Buddhism and coaching are completely synergetic, absolutely synergetic. It's just that we are using different terms and different models and different frameworks, maybe, but largely the underlying philosophy and the outcome are the same. So that is where I think that is where I would want to, as a very short answer, close my response saying that coaching, my Buddhist practice led me to take up coaching very, very easily.
Yeah, so if you were to explain coaching and or even Buddhism to me, right? So I have no idea what it is, assuming. You were to explain it to me in terms of what coaching is. You said it is synonymous, but how so? If you have to explain it to me as a 10-year-old kid.
Oh, as a 10-year-old kid, I was going into the spiritual tangent.
I think to a large extent, 10-year-olds are more spiritual than
More
possible.
spiritual, right? Because what is
Advanced.
spirituality? It is not sensible. Oh, that's such a beautiful and a very thought-provoking question. Okay, so coaching and Buddhism are both practices of being human. So if you have to explain to a 10-year-old, I would rather tell that child in front of me is that continue to stay who you are. Your innocence is precious, and the way that you trust the world, um, I mean, is so beautiful, and continue to do that. So I think if we come from a space of authenticity, which children are very authentic, right? If we come from a space of authenticity, a space of codependence, and codependence here I don't mean not as a negative connotation, but the fact that we are all a part of this larger web of universe, right? And we're all connected to each other. Nobody's living in or striving in isolation. So as simple as that, just continue to be who you are, continue to offer yourself to the people the way you are, and continue to receive the people the way they are, is what coaching and Buddhism largely mean to us. Or I would talk to a 10-year-old. If has not sounded too complex.
You'll have to ask the 10-year-old and say, did you understand this? But I think beautiful space in terms of who you are and being innocent and being open to whatever life comes through. I think those are concepts all of us, even as elders, would like to, even subscribe to. And easier for 10-year-olds to understand because we're not complicating it too much.
Yeah, I mean, tell me, isn't it, haven't we forgotten who we are? As I was speaking with one of the other coaches also in another similar forum, is that it is a homecoming. We have forgotten, right? It's going back to who we are. And if I can bring a reference of my mother here, she always says that you have to, she says in the spiritual terminology, she says you have to return to your mool, which means the core of the being. And that is what spirituality is all about. So I think children are already there, right? And somehow the world around us shapes us and shapes our senses in such a way that we move away from who we are. If we continue to just be who we are and accept others for who they are, is what is coaching, and is absolutely what is.
Wow. That's a very, very beautiful analogy and an example. And so, uh, so you have spiritual roots already from your mom coming in.
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. I mean, I look up to her, and she's very well versed with all the, the Bible and the Quran and the Ramayana and the work of, you know, I mean, all these amazing Sufi poets. So I think she's also a sort of a mentor for me when and can you very well imagine that when I have doubts about my coaching practice or my Buddhist practice, I turn towards her, and she has no clue about I mean, about the coaching practice as we define it, as per International Coaching Federation or Buddhism for that matter. But because she's so well read, and that's where I am so firmly convinced, Shrish and Sunil and Satish in the background, is that everything actually is just finally one and the same. It's just that we've given we started speaking from how we perceive the world through our colored lenses. But largely the language, if you look at the language, the sounds that was there at the beginning of the universe is because we want to become authorities of uh, the disciplines and the philosophies and the that we are proponents of, and we want to own it, and that's why there is so much of divide as to and so many different paths that have come into being. But finally, if you look at it, it's all leading to one destination. And for me, the revelation was coaching is one of those paths. And that
Absolutely.
was amazing for me. And I knew that this is finally maybe this is what what the world calls passion. And more what I say is ikigai. For me, again, ikigai was a very distant concept. I've read all the work around it. Maybe even I'm also guilty of taking sessions around ikigai without fully understanding what it means to me. But I think when I'm doing this coaching work today at Shriram University, I've found that the whole of the ikigai I am now, whole in that sense. Sorry, I'm speaking too
Perfectly all right. Very, very beautifully put, Payal. And what I heard was 10-year-olds are spiritual beings, and it is the world around them that changes them.
Yeah.
So that brings me to uh, one thought that you were mentioning the other day, uh, that you probably changed what 10 or 12 schools during your childhood,
Yeah.
getting it transferred every year. So how did you manage that? Was you being quiet, not participating, a result of that transfers, or there was some other impact on you of those transfers? How do you manage that? What was the grounding force there?
I think way back, our generation, I'm sounding so stereotypical, right? And I just hope my 19-year-old does not, get this podcast to hear. I think we were raised much resilient and much more forbearing to what we were exposed to. And the grounding force definitely were my parents. There's no doubt about it. Very outgoing people, very open people, very embracing of all cultures, religions, communities, demographies. And I think slipping into those shoes wasn't easy because when you see that being practiced day in and day out in your home, and then it just becomes a part of you, right? And largely, when you are such a person, you also tend to create circles of friendship around you, uh, of people who have similar value systems. So for me, I was growing up in such a circle. So if we have to look at from two different angles, me as a person, because my who I am, my personality, as I call it, was evolving as a individual entity, right? It was an entity in itself, and I was exploring myself, and I was understanding who I am, like we all do. And then I was in this ecosystem, which was a very safe space, and also a very also a space of great learning. And so being in that space allowed me to make those moves. And sometimes we were moving twice in 1 year. And I was landing up in convents, and the convents back then were very regimental and very structured. But I think I was able to blend, not where I lost my identity, but blend into like a kaleidoscope. Do you remember when we were growing up? There used to be these vendors who would come. They would come in the gullies, as we call it, right? And they would have these beautiful small boxes, and we would peek into that, and they would show us those colors merging, and amazing, right? I mean, what memory! So I was blending into that. I think I was adding to the color, and the color was adding to who I was. We already in color. At the same time, I was also in my shell. I think both were allowed to coexist. So I think that was a beautiful journey. It has become one of the pillars of how I function today, because it it just very naturally, organically, intuitively allows me to uh, to be with people around me. What we call in coaching today, you know, um, am I getting the term right? Like cross-cultural coach. I think this comes to me very naturally. Maybe I need to go through the frameworks and models of how to be a cross-cultural coach. But at the ground level, at the foundational level, I think I'm already built for that.
I 100% agree. And correct me if I miss out on something or say something which is not right. Somebody who was a science student in school, a humanities student in college, mastered in philosophy or probably a PhD. I'm sorry if I'm missing on that. Taught history, practices Buddhism, also during the course did neuroscience, became a neuroscience coach, and if I'm pronouncing it right, the Carl Jung concepts of personality, and then out of choice a homemaker.
Yes.
Nobody would believe a driven woman like Payal, a homemaker, out of choice. And when she came in the profession, she left everybody behind. She taught history, then she goes into coaching. She practices coaching. Now she heads the coaching vertical. I think that was just a trailer of what the things are going to come for you in your life. Those formative years.
Oh,
I
lovely.
hope I
Thank
haven't missed
you.
out on anything.
No, no, you haven't. And if you have, I wouldn't want to overwhelm you, right?
No, please go ahead. We would like to know what else. Typically, what else?
No, we'll keep it at it for now. So, I mean, thank you for capturing this so beautifully and with such candor, Shrish. May I ask you a question here before I answer?
Okay.
Tell me essentially, I'm going to ask you two questions if you give me permission.
Okay. Please.
One maybe is coming from, and I'm not a feminist, I'm guilty of being stereotypical earlier, who says that a homemaker cannot be driven, or a driven person cannot be just a homemaker, right? Being a homemaker entails and calls for much more we can ever imagine. That
Okay.
was my
I'll
first
take. No, I'll take this one. Nobody says. In fact, I said, and homemaker out of choice.
yes, yes. No, I
And
did
when
get you
and,
right.
and when she comes into a profession, she leaves everybody behind.
Yeah. So,
So I hope I have answered the question.
right, right. And we can
Second
continue.
one, yours, Sunil.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am happy to take this up because it almost is the role reversal podcast is your coming. So
So
question is
the
coming from.
moment she said that, मेरे मन में एक बात आई, वो गाना था ना, शिकारी खुद यहाँ शिकार बन गया.
You did tell me it's a candid conversation, not a coaching session and a podcast. Right? I mean,
Go
what
ahead.
fun is it if I'm the only one sharing all the, the wisdom that I may pretend to have, which I don't. So,
Go ahead. Share a second question and let's see where the cookie crumbles.
yeah, right. And I'm going to, with all due permission, and even if you don't give me the permission, I'm going to correct you once more, Shrish. I haven't left anyone behind. Just working hand in hand with all of you together. The second question is, would essentially be history, science, philosophy, coaching, and neuroscience, Buddhism, any different?
Okay, I can take that one also. Sunil, if you allow me.
Please go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
no, they are absolutely not different. And the analogy is moving from grade 6 to 7 from one school to another school, moving from 7 to 8 from one school to another school. It's the same journey. It's just panned out in a different way for you.
Yeah, and yes, it did. But finally, I think I was just doing the same thing, being the same person I am, uh, contributing the way I would have ever wished, whether I was at home, loving biology. Botany was, I mean, I would have lived for botany and genetics. Maybe I would have made a good researcher as well if I did pursue. Uh, and then while doing history and teaching history was one of the most phenomenal phases of my life. And then diving into coaching and all of this while being a Buddhist practitioner. I see I see that all of them are just very beautifully entangled or woven, rather woven would be a better, they're just beautifully woven to be the same, for the want of a better word, the same thread that might come out of it. So when you look at something which is like a rope or something like beautiful, those are beautiful. Give me a word here. Help me.
Those threads twined together, I
Yeah,
would
the
say.
threads twined together, right? Which can either come as a part of your braid or a belt or be a necklace or something. You will see multicolored threads and many threads. So finally, it's just making one beautiful piece, right? So
Yeah.
I think all
So
of them for me have been that. And if you want me to dive into how, I can also do it because I would love to.
Please, please, please. You're most welcome to do it.
See, when we talk about history, history is what? History is what has shaped the civilization over millennia, right? Finally, at the root of it is the human being. When we talk about uh, practices like coaching professions, again, we're talking about the human. When we're talking about science, it's the human biology. When we are talking about neuroplasticity, we're talking about again the human biology, right? So at the core of it, at the center of it, I think we continue to forget is that it's it's just human. It's just that one person, either it's me or the person in front of me, right? So you can call it neuroplasticity, neuroscience, you can call it Buddhism, you can call it history. Uh, Finally, the point is same. It is the inner practice that is creating a lasting change. The practices of our ancestors created the change that we live today. So the outer change differs, but finally it is the inner practices. And I think coaching is most powerful because it honors both. It honors the science of the brain, of the body, and the wisdom of human traditions, the history, um, and what we have lived to be what we are today.
Interesting. So many things that everything leads back to one. So if I had to, whatever, when you were talking about threads and you asked me to give help you out there, and uh, the only example that I found most relevant was the South Indian thali, or because I'm a South Indian. It is a thali that comes first. So there's everything there is, but at the end of the day, it's all good food and it's nourishment, and it finally ends there. So we give it different names and different structures, but at the end, it is a unifying factor.
Oh, I love these two words that you've used. One is nourishing and one is unifying. So all that we talked about right now, they are nourishing factors for us. And I mean, until unless they're actually, I mean, they come in unison, there will be this conflict that we experience day in and day out.
And I also had a follow-up question. So, history buffs in that context, right? So, how do you make history exciting? So right now, the study of history in school books is XYZ has a war, blah 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 happens. Somebody is becomes the ruler. There are wars getting fought. XYZ things happening. We read somehow textbooks in 10-15 pages, or history in 10-15 pages, and we somehow miss out on all that exists between that, and in between the lines there are empires, right? So how do you teach history, or how did you teach history?
Oh, this is such a common question that is thrown at a poor history teacher, right? How do you go beyond dates and timelines and just facts and boring figures and complex names and even more complicated names of the dynasties and the empires? Okay, I'll share again an anecdote here, right? So there's a beautiful, I'm not sure, I mean, since you are in that part of the world, have you visited Mahabalipuram?
I have heard of it, but I haven't visited, not in person.
So Mahabalipuram has this beautiful piece from history. Okay? It is carved out on a rock, which is called the Descent of Ganga. All right, and it sits there for all the tourists and visitors to come and have a look at it. Because when you're looking at it from a distance, because this rock is a little far away, and then there's a body of water, and then there's a little, like a bridge that they have built. There's a retaining wall, and then you see it from a distance. A novice eye can easily miss it. However, that is where history lies. So there are many other important historical, masterpieces in Mahabalipuram. Apart from that, if you have heard of the butter stone, which is just, defying gravity, and it's just just resting on at an angle which defies complete science, because it should otherwise just tumble away down the slope of the mountain. But it's resting at an angle, at a very strange angle. Have you heard of the butter stone? The butter rock, okay? So if you look at history from that point of view, now imagine the descent of the Ganga is spoken about or mentioned in our epics. And then you have this rock structure, magnificent rock structure, where the entire scene from the epics is depicted, carved out on that rock, where each and every, so I wouldn't want to take that time, but I would really, really urge you to go and check out this piece from history, right? Why don't we talk about these episodes, these artifacts, these beautiful stories that have been left behind for us, you know, and they're sitting right in front of us. So my entire family just passed by, like, wow, amazing, quite a big, or a massive structure. But if you have to look at every single detail, the nagas that are carved out, the Shiva's hair that is carved out, the descent of the Ganga, who were the Rakshasas during that time, who were the Devas during that time, what is their episode, every single detail, right? And you take the students, you take them out of the class and you take them to that, and you say, this is a piece of history. Or you talk about the Cholas, and then you take them to, there's this, again, a beautiful masterpiece where the entire Chola constitution is carved out on a piece of rock. Like what were their laws governing them? It's again sitting there beautifully in South India. And you take the class there. And who says history is not interesting? And you read the work of Yuval Noah Harari, Sapiens.
Sapiens.
I think it's a Bible for any story. So history is not. I think we have brought history to mere dates and timelines and complex names and dynasties. History is much, much more beyond.
I think I got my podcast question in. I think that really puts you there. So, Payal, this was the most interesting bit in terms of your face really lit up, right? So until now, you were giving all the spiritual answers. This is where your face really lit up, and I said, "Oh, you should do history." And I think, yeah.
You will
So
fall in love with history if I start teaching you.
I think that's a separate podcast, I guess, Shrish, that we need to bring Payal back into this and ask her to share histories and this thing. But I'll steal the next question as well. So, because you said life passes by, and sometimes people look at these smaller details that really make history there. If you were to now look back at your life and look at its own history, where will you pause? 3 places where you will pause, and what will you see?
I'm allowed only 3. Yeah.
So
So
we'll relax it for you.
sake of the podcast history, tell us more.
We'll relax it for you. Take as many pauses
No,
as you want to take.
3 is more than with such complicated lives that we live, that we have built for ourselves, right? 3 are enough. Oh, this is such an amazing question because it's nostalgic. Because the moment I take a pause to reflect on that, the first memory and the picture comes in front of my eyes is that of my late father. And I don't know why this memory has popped up, and I'm going to stay very true to it, right? Without dissecting or analyzing whether it is good enough to share or not. Is I remember that I was with him at a fishery, at a government fishery that he was building. So, and I must be around 7 or 8 at the time. I must be at that age at the time. And I was fascinated by the fact, first of all, that there would be an artificial fishery, which I wasn't aware that fisheries exist. Second, I was he took me by hand and he was walking around the construction site, and it was a massive construction site. And I looked at the pits that would eventually turn to be the fisheries, right? And I looked at him and I looked at the pit. I still remember. And I was dead scared because they were just massive in terms of depth and the width. And I looked at him, and that suddenly the depth and the darkness of the pit that was scaring me. And suddenly I looked at him. I looked up and I looked at him, and he was busy talking to someone or maybe looking somewhere. And I felt very safe. And thank you, Shrish, because and Sunil, because I haven't revisited this memory in decades. So I would want to relive that moment again with my father. Um, second is a little bit emotional. Is again because I think that is when I was feeling the safety slipping away from my hands. When I remember the last time he blessed me before he passed away, and he had almost lost all energy, and the doctors had said that he'll not be able to respond by the time I arrived. I was a young adolescent at that time, but the moment I arrived, he was able to open his eyes, and like in Indian culture, we bless by putting parents with their hand on the head. Yeah, and my mother was sitting next to me. I would want to relive that again a million times. And third is the birth of my son. So maybe they don't sound professionally correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but
let's
they're what
shift it
works.
to, sorry, sorry, Smith. Yeah.
No, I was
So
just sharing that what works for you is what works for you, right? So may not be the most professional answer, but they are the most honest answers there are.
But I am immensely and massively thankful to you because I had to relive this, as I said, in decades.
Cool,
and
Shrish.
yeah, so now an 100-mark question from me. Just one choice.
I know you will go back to
Life.
Kali.
Go back to.
Kali, somehow
No,
intuitively
no,
feel.
no, 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 no. I don't want to go to any place which I cannot pronounce even.
Okay, I'll ask that. Right. Tell me.
So, one life-changing event out of so many events.
I think it's when I decided to. It's two actually. It's when I decided to take up Buddhism and pick up coaching. Both. Is it allowed?
Absolutely.
Right? Because
And sorry.
you said 100-mark questions. I was already. You have to understand, please. I'm a student, right? I've already articulated a 100-mark answer in my head.
No, you were saying something. You were just following it up to answer because you said something.
Yeah,
And I
please.
interrupted.
Yeah, I will follow up again after what you say with my 100-mark answer because now it's sitting in my head.
No, no. So you follow it up and then I'll ask the next question.
I think this is because, I mean, there has to be a very solid reason as to why I would, um, mark them or pin them as my life-changing uh, events, right? It's because both of them gave me the courage to be clear when things were uncertain. Personally, when I took up Buddhism, and professionally, when I took up coaching. Uh, I I was grappling with the fact that we need to be perfect all the time, right? Or we need to have perfect answers to everything. But I think people don't need perfect answers. Nobody does. I think what people need to hear at homes and in workplaces and around us is that, what, here's what I know and here's what I don't. Or maybe here's what we know and here's what we don't. And here's how we will move together. Well, the Buddhist community gave me that. This is what we know, this is what we don't, let's move together. And this is what the coaching community did. And I I think I also became very disciplined in the way I listen, not as an act, not as a performance, but really as a practice. Because the Buddhism that I practice, the Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism, with my mentor, Dr. Daisa Prabhupada, who was passed away a year ago, is that listening changes the decisions we make because we are then able to see beyond the assumptions that we are doing. And I, like any other human, was coming from so many assumptions, whether I was stepping into my home or whether I was stepping into my work. So I think that discipline to listen, the courage to be clear, and most importantly, the humility to understand that there is now high time that I need to shift from a ego-driven space to a to a service-driven space, is what changed me from within. And there's a beautiful word that we use, Shrish and Sunil, in Buddhism. We call it inner human revolution. And we call it the inner revolution. So not the like the industrial revolution and all those revolutions. We call it the inner human revolution, the inner change that happens. So Buddhism enabled that, and then coaching enabled that, because we talk about the Buddha within in our Buddhist practice. So Buddha within. The Buddha is not outside. The Buddha is within. I've just forgotten, right? Again, the homecoming. It's like there's a mirror in front of me, which is dusty, and I'm trying to look at it, and I'm seeing only a clouded image. And I'm trying to clean the mirror. And I'm cleaning the mirror, and the dust is off, but I'm still seeing a clouded image. And I'm continuing to polish the mirror, but I don't realize the dust is not on the mirror, the dust is on. So Buddhism speaks so beautifully about polishing the mirror inside, the Buddha. So the Buddha is already within. I need to polish my life so that the Buddha manifests. And my personal philosophy about coaching also rests around this. Coach is within. Okay? So when I'm practicing the frameworks, the models, the principles, the codes, I am polishing the mirror, which is outside. So then what do I do about the human that I bring to the coaching session? Because there cannot be two humans, right? There can't be a dichotomy. There can't be two people. The same person I am outside the coaching session, and it's the same person I am in the coaching session. So it is the coach within. And the coach within comes out or manifests only when I polish myself. So all the competencies, and I thank you for giving me this, even though you haven't given me an split space to talk about it, but I'm going to take it as an opportunity that I am absolutely in love with all the competencies that I say puts out. Because they're not about polishing the mirror outside. They're about polishing the mirror. They're about polishing myself. And then the coach within is the coach without. We say Buddha within and the Buddha without. Which means when I'm the Buddha within, everybody around me becomes Buddha. Why? Because when I'm coming from a space, imagine like for Buddha, everybody was a Buddha, right? That's why he was Buddha. Because he had that bodh. Because he was awakened, the awareness that everybody has the potential. Imagine now, and this is the synergy. So Buddhism says everybody is Buddha because everybody has the potential to become Buddha. And Gautam Buddha became a Buddha because he awakened to the fact that I am a Buddha and everybody is. And that is why that bodh, the awareness, led to the name Buddha, right? And when I realized that, because when we say in service of the client, and when we define coaching as per ICF, or for that matter in any way, we say the client is whole. What does that mean? I mean, if you have to translate it into literal meaning that where a 10-year-old can understand. What do you mean the client is whole? The client is whole. I will not see the client whole unless I see myself whole. And when I see myself whole, I'm awakened to the fact that I am whole, and therefore every human being is whole. And then that's what we call emotional intelligence and awareness. And all. Right? Different terms, different rituals, different traditions, but finally the outcome. The Buddha within, Buddha without, coach within, coach without. That's why I will believe that the client has the answers, because they already are a coach within. They have their own coach. Right?
Sunil, I'm really enjoying the symphony of energy here in the podcast today. As Payal is speaking, and she's, there's the energy then it is a dip, and then there's up, excitement, introspection.
Right.
Wonderful. So the follow-up question comes now, and you named it, you yourself give it a name, service-driven, service-driven. Sorry, I missed the last word. Okay, let's keep it at service-driven. So you've taken coaching to the students. That's a beautiful work that you're doing. And not only to students, you've taken it to even the employees of Shillong University, to the panchayats of villages. So tell us something more about that initiative that you've taken. What prompted you? That's a big thing. Not many people have thought about it. Very rarely corporates are now thinking about middle management, and here you're looking at the bottom level workforce of an institution. You're looking at rural India. You're looking at panchayats. What gave you the idea? What prompted it? And how is it coming out?
At the risk of being repetitive, the Buddha within, the Buddha without. When you see potential everywhere, Shrish, right? And it is not me, so it is we. This is all happening because of the collective. We are able to take coaching to the faculty members, to the executive. Yes, maybe there are more privileged to that opportunity being available for them. When we speak about the housekeeping staff, it is the students who are getting trained on the International Coaching Federation core competencies as a foundation course, elective or a minor, as we call it, at the university setting, for which they are awarded academic credits and 30 CCUs by International Coaching Federation. Is that these students, once they finish those 45 hours of practice of the coaching competencies, is that when they take coaching to the housekeeping staff. And the results have been phenomenal in the sense, I think, maybe because they're not able to be with them for a longer period of time, for a needle shift to happen when we talk about metrics. But when these women come to their reporting manager, or they come to me, or they go to the management saying that we felt seen, heard, and valued. The students usually pass us by as we don't even exist. Right? And they're sitting in the corridors, or they're doing their cleaning work, or morning to evening mundane tasks. And here the students, the management gave them time out of their reporting time to sit for a coaching session, which made them feel that they are also important cogs in the wheel in the institution. And the students sitting with them and talking to them, maybe not full-fledged coaching sessions, but the fact that there was a space that was offered of comfort, I'm here for you, I see you, right, has been life-changing for all of us. I think when we saw that being such a heartwarming experience, we witnessed that as such a heartwarming experience, is when I intuitively realized that these housekeeping staff are coming from the villages. So why don't we take coaching to villages? I didn't start with a structure or already a blueprint in my mind, or a P&L or anything of that sort, if you ask me. I was to visit, the starting point had to be to visit a panchayat. And I wasn't sure which panchayat and where actually the panchayat offices are, and how do we even approach them, and should I do it through the university channel, or should I just go and meet them? And as fate would have it, I landed up in one of the Gram Sabhas after speaking to one of the Pradhans, as they call it here in the democracy. And from there, it has been a beautiful journey. We successfully closed the first pilot from pre-incubation to post-incubation, where the resources for these 27 women, 27 women. The women told me on the day of the handover ceremony, which was absolutely enabled by Shrish University's Sahel Foundation, their CSR initiative, is that till the time you actually handed over the equipment to us on the stage, we believe this project would never see light, because they said so many people come and go and make promises. And, and this is here actually what we promised, and it has been delivered. And through the power of coaching, I will tell you, the major challenge was not to ideate or to train them on the entrepreneurial venture. The major challenge was the fear of failure. and the stigma that if I fail, my family, how will I go back to my family? Because I'm stepping out by overcoming such strong barriers, and you have to understand rural settings are very different. These people did not even have access to phones or what. Forget about WhatsApp, right? We got them WhatsApp, got them recharges, and then the coaches connected over WhatsApp video calls. Sometimes phones would be only with their husbands or only with their children, and they would be taking care of the cattle or the farm, and available only either early mornings or late nights. And all these coaches, have been so phenomenally supportive and accommodating of their schedules and be there for them. So I think if I have to take any credit, that would be the least. Because I was sitting in the comfort of the office, coordinating everything. Yes, visiting the villages. Yes, being with the mentors. Yes, being with the coaches. But on ground, at the grassroots level, it was the women who showed this courage, the student mentors who connected all the dots, and the coaches who said, I'm going to communicate in the local language and help them find that confidence and finally help them believe that they have potential within. So I think it's a beautiful journey of an example of everybody coming together. So it can never be an I, but just a whole be.
I really like the way she says, I did nothing. I was just sitting in my office. Modestly, she says that. She doesn't mention that the element of trust she brought in the process, which helped these women overcome the fear of failure, the space she held for them, that they could just come out and do it. Very well done, Payal.
No, it was, I would, thank you so much. You're being very, very sweet and nice here, but I truly believe that the actual work, they say, when you get your hands dirty, it is the student mentors and it is the coaches. And finally, all of this would have still stayed a vision if the surely management did not step in and say, you know what, let's make this happen. Let's give them what they want. How much does it take? And Shrish and Sunil, I'll tell you, it doesn't take much. So when you ask me, like, not many people are doing it, I'm sometimes I'm surprised and not happily, but why are we not doing this? That and you know what happened when we did the handover ceremony? Something very beautiful happened. The president at the university, Mrs. Khosla, she spoke about something she did 30 years ago when she was with the director education extension. Mr. Chancellor Sir was director education extension at the university, and because of that, she was able to empower 15 to 20 families in a village that was completely like, there are no outcasts today, but mostly an outcast community. And today they are all upper middle class families. Imagine 20 families, 30 years ago, you have touched 2 to 3 generations. Multiply the numbers. To change the lives of more than 100 people. And she recalled that and she said, I'm going to go back and visit and revive the entire project. And then the pro-chancellor goes on to share the story of his grandmother who was displaced during partition. And we all know how they were ferried in those lorries and then put on the trains and then they were marked in the trucks. Where would this particular group land up in as a refuge for the refugee camp, right? And then starting from scratch, running behind cold trains for warm water. And he has actually lived that. And today, like the kind of flourishing, businesses and ventures they have established, including Trinity University. And he was talking, and this is also where the power of a woman comes in. The power of a woman, the power of the collective, the power of belief, and the power of definitely coaching. I mean, I could, if I could, I would, I would create or design coaching to be a spiritual practice so that 500 years from now, people will not know that it was a profession of intervention, people development, and maybe they will synonymously use it with Hinduism and Buddhism and coaching.
Coachism.
Coachism, right?
And I'm going to use this and a lot of my coaching and mentor sessions, and when I have to just explain that all it needs is intent,
Yeah.
and things fall into place.
Absolutely. Wow. So you've actually put me in a space where I don't really have questions to ask to say, okay, what next is a question.
Is that so,
There's
Sunil?
so many. Uh, I'm still sitting in with the possibilities that you just shared. Nari Shakti, then there is the aspect of personal stories, then intention. For somebody who's seen this kind of space in its smaller microcosms, to say one act of kindness can actually impact so many things.
Right.
And that space, I'm still in that space, in terms of absorbing all that you shared, and the other jumping off nuclear fission fusion kind of a thought process additionally to what you just shared. And I think even the final statement at some point that you just it has to be a space where coaching is not something that is elite or something that's uh, above us. It's something that could be as easy as breathing. Right? So that is something that hit me quite hard with that, saying, "Hey, that's something that's beautiful."
But I was cautioned that I will be bombarded with questions from Sunil.
I have
I
I
feel a
would
little,
love to ask more questions.
so I feel
Yeah,
a little smug.
yeah. So I have a lot of questions,
Yeah,
and
please
Sunil will
go ahead.
follow up. I know.
Please
Yeah.
go.
Hmm.
I will have to answer. I'm just absolutely loving this place. I have to tell you both.
Thank
Because
you, thank you, and we are loving it too. Like, so, Payal, we've talked about Payal, the coach, Payal, the Buddhist practitioner, Payal, the teacher. I want to talk and learn about leadership by talking about Payal, the leader.
pile the leader or pile on leadership?
Payal, first Payal, the leader, and maybe we'll see where it goes from there.
Oh, oh, right, wonderful. I'm going to, so I take this, as I said, I take this course, right, uh, for students and coaching competencies. It's called the Future Leaders Program. And my lecture begins with the question, who is a leader? I'm going to present the question back to you. Shrish, before I answer Payal as a leader, who is a leader? What makes a leader, as Daniel Goleman says?
I think if I have to answer that, I'll say Payal is the leader.
That's a very safe uh, route you have taken, Shrish. And you're
Don't
not,
forget, I'm a coach too, and I know how to play back the question.
so we are not in a tussle here, but right,
No, no,
go.
it's not a tussle. It's
Yeah,
just because we want to know Payal, the leader.
yes. So I will begin by answering what makes a leader and who is a leader, right? And there's a beautiful video around this, if I'm allowed to talk about the sources that are outside this podcast, right? It's called the Tree. It's a beautiful 2.5 minute video. I don't know if the government of India released it or if some. No, it was released by a by an organization as a promotional video, but the message is amazing. Right? It demonstrates that leadership is not limited by age, title, hierarchy, position, achieving results. It is leadership is merely defined by service. And I will share the link with you after our podcast. There's a small child who is able to do something where every single adult around him, from all walks of life, from all genders, from all age groups, from all titles and positions, have given up, and how the child leads the way. So, if by that definition, if you ask me, Payal as a leader is service-driven leadership, right? Beyond that, I would never ever dare to call myself a leader by position, title, or hierarchy. And if you ask me about my file on leadership, then, you know, I don't claim to have any final words on leadership. Like, who am I to define it, right? So I'm very cautious about any declarations on it because I'm still learning myself. But if I stand back and look at leadership from the point of view that what feels most needed right now for the world, there are certain few qualities that stand out, which I'm not going to repeat because I've already spoken about that earlier. And that is why they were life-changing moments to me. If you can recall with me, is the courage to be clear when things are uncertain. That defines the leadership of the way. It is the discipline to listen, and it is the humility that you carry within, and to also not measure the success by how you look, but how you help others look. And this is what separates leaders from who build movements from leaders to just hold tight. For me, anything that I practice or believe in stays consistent, whether I'm a homemaker or whether I'm looking at a leader who is sitting at the top of the ladder, CXO, or whether I'm sitting in a community who's chanting and fellow practitioners of this. Value systems.
Can I take?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I just meant the value systems and the qualities have to continue to stay the same.
Can I take a follow-up question here?
Yes, please.
Since we are talking about leadership.
Right.
So, in my limited experience as a coach, about leadership, one of the major problems that the individual contributors, when they become leaders, is delegation. And here, why I said Payal the leader was because here I see Payal full of international events, full of anything. I don't even have the words to mention what all she can do. With student interns, students who are probably just there for a couple of years, and every time there's a new batch, and she's doing it year on year basis. So, what learnings about delegation would you like to pass on for such people?
Here, my learnings come from learning to be a parent, Shrish, which all of us might already have experienced. Right? I was struggling with when your child is growing up and then becoming a teenager and Gen Z, and I was reading up a lot of books. I'm being very honest here. I was reading up a lot of books because I was feeling guilty that I'm failing as a parent to a Gen Z child. And I wanted to give my best, and how we feel so anxious, and then again how we want to be perfect, right? Like the perfect parent for your child. And that's when I came across two things again in a workshop. Two things that stayed with me. I mean, there must have been 100 things that were shared, but two things that stayed with me and that I practiced from when my child was very, very young is please treat them as individuals. The way we are treating each other right now, just treat them as individuals. And what does that entail? That you believe in them, that you believe in their potential, that you believe in the work they do and they can do, that you accord equal amount of respect and equanimity. If you have to put it in one word, it is equanimity of thought, decision, and expression. Treating them as an individual, most importantly, and then giving them the power of choice. And the power of choice, you will not be able to do that unless you treat them as an individual. Because otherwise you will end up micromanaging, controlling, directing. And then what will happen? I mean, we all know as coaches. We're talking about leader as a coach, right? The carrot and stick policy doesn't work anymore. directing doesn't work anymore. I mean, apart from wherever it is required. When we talk about the situational leadership, different conversation as well. But again, tell me, I mean, what are we talking about when we are going into a coaching session? The client is whole. The client knows what to do. The client has all the answers. I'm here in the service of the client. So why I'm not here in the service of the student? Wouldn't that be a dichotomy? Then I'm a coach only in my coaching session and not outside. Then I'm being with the student, believing that they are whole, that they have all the answers, and that hierarchy or position should not creep in where I do not treat them as an individual. I see myself as a teacher or a professor and them as a student or a mentee or a trainee. And then also, as I said, the power of choice. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. It is a learning for them. And I have enough and more resources to get it done.
Yeah.
But we're talking about empowerment, right, Shrish? If you look at the pro bono coaching model with 350 plus coaches today, as of today, 22 countries, I think not 24 countries now, from yesterday. We're talking about who is the major stakeholder here? Students. We're talking about exploring the power of coaching in academia for a young adolescent. Through coaching, while we are in a coaching session only, wouldn't that be such a conflict if I'm not able to practice that outside? So I think leadership is leader as a coach, truly completely. And it stems from, again, I think the foundation here is Daniel Goleman's work, for me personally, emotionally, right? And again, if I have to look at neuroscience and Buddhism and coaching and Carl Jung, which wants to stay away from. I mean, look at all the practices. Look at all the practices. What is that? What is that is happening? When we're talking about Carl Jung's work, Carl Jung says that we are afraid of the shadow, right? So please, I mean, it will be amazing if we can have a follow-up conversation, not as a podcast, but maybe just as friends later on. He talks about the shadow, and shadow in coaching shows up when clients confront the self-limiting beliefs. Because these self-limiting beliefs, the fears and the patterns, we are hiding them. We don't want to confront them. We don't want to see them. We are avoiding them. So, to share an example, for example, like someone is wanting or constantly striving for success. So they're secretly carrying a belief that they're not worthy and that they're unworthy of this success. So even if they continue to build the skills around it or plan strategies around it, they're just polishing the surface, as we spoke about earlier. But the actual breakthrough comes when they're willing to look at the shadow, the doubt, the vulnerability, that I'm unworthy, and understand that it is a part of who they are. That integration, that this is what I'm holding, rather than the suppression, is what is going to unlock the authentic growth, as Carl Jung puts it. So isn't coaching the same? Right? Coaching is exactly the same. We are helping the client work on their self-limiting beliefs. That's when we say we are challenging the client. And then if we actually practice that, people ask me a lot of times, what kind of coaching you practice or believe in, or what's the path you have taken, solution-focused coaching, goal-oriented coaching. I think this performance coaching, and there's so many terms flying around these days. I say the coaching within, the coach within and the coach without. Coaching is about internal transformation. It is about, and I really believe in Dr. Marcia Reynolds' work here. It is about the inner work, coaching the person and not the problem. So that then coaching isn't just performance optimization. It is creating that safe space where people can bring those hidden aspects into light, as Kalyan puts it, and then use it as a fuel for transformation. And there is one very fancy word that we use repeatedly and a lot, and it's an overused term. We call it empowerment. And if this is empowerment, then why would empowerment stop for a CEO or a middle management corporate guy? Why wouldn't empowerment happen for a student when we bring executive coaching to them into academia, or for a student who is not getting coached but is in my team as an intern, or is working with you, or a rural woman who's sitting in the village thinking, is this her life? Because that's what they have told me verbatim. I don't want to put my hand in front of my husband again. These three women came to me after the Gram Sabha and said, Ma'am, the only thing that we don't want to do is, if I can use Hindi word, मुझे अपने husband से पैसे नहीं मांगने और नहीं मांगने. And all that we need to do is help them look at their shadow. Whether you call it the Jungian philosophy or the coaching philosophy or Buddhism. Because Buddhism says, when we practice Buddhism, what we do practice in the morning and the evening is that I will dare to look at what I need to polish within. I hope that answers the question, Shrish. And I know I've been going on and on and on. But as I said, you're doing such a beautiful
We're enjoying it. We're enjoying it. Sunil,
Yeah.
you have a follow-up question?
I have a follow-up question. So I'm no longer short of words. I kept quiet for this entire conversation there. So because Shrish beautifully puts that there in terms of Payal, the history teacher, Payal, the coach, Payal, the Buddhist practitioner. And so now I have this killer PCC question or the MCC question, right? So,
Oh God, I'm so nervous.
we've not yet come to Payal, the complete whole individual. So I leave that to you. So who's Payal?
Who's Payal?
Yes.
And now there is no limitation of using the word P.
Yeah, so you
No,
can
no,
do it.
use any alphabet.
Yeah, you can share P, A, B, C, D, all the alphabets of the English, Hindi, whatever dictionaries that you get to. There are no words part.
Very strangely, this question, which I'm not sure, maybe you're asking every guest that you have, who they are, has made me emotional. Again, you see how much we need, how much of practice, how much of the work that we speak about, we're still not doing. I'm preaching, practicing, pause. I think I've not taken enough pause to ask myself, is
So we do a separate podcast, or I'll ask the follow-up question. So who isn't Payal?
don't we all wish that what we call as regrets? But I think that they are a part of who we are. And so I think who is Payal and who isn't Payal makes Payal what she is today. The whole Payal. Right?
Okay, I'll answer that for Payal now. So Payal is potential minus interference is equal to performance.
I so wish you had not shared. And we bring John Whitmore and Timothy Galloway into the conversation.
How do you remember all these names? Our MC, my guru Ujjwalji keeps giving all these books and all these things. It somehow slips away from my mind in terms of all these books, all those things that other people have shared. And somehow I always call myself the Ekalavya coach. I've not read textbooks. So I am the jungle version of Arjuna, right? So I've not really had too many official books, or even if you ask me to read a book, I say I will and I don't read. So I'm always curious when somebody says, "Hey, this is that philosophy. This person XYZ wrote it." How do you remember who wrote what? So that's something that's always been a crazy question for me.
Okay, I'm going to answer this in two parts, Sunil. One is that who says being an Aklavya coach, which is such a beautiful, amazing term, because it's now being published. Otherwise, I would have trademarked and use it for my. Everybody's using their own trademark coaching niche names, right? I would have used it, but anyway, I will very generously let you keep it. Who says that you can't be an Aklavya coach? Because then aren't you like, it's like not being initiated into the performance.
Correct.
And when you're not initiated into the performance and you are uninitiated, when you are uninitiated, the only goal is the goal itself.
Mm.
Right? I mean, wouldn't there is a risk that you will define your own coaching philosophy there? But wouldn't that be beautiful that you see, understand, practice, comprehend coaching the way completely unblemished and uncorrupted, undiluted.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think that space there, that to a large extent, my personal experiences have been especially with people who already been part of coaching, and I am an accidental coach at that. So it's almost as if the cook at home is not a cook until the chef approves. Right? Uh, so that's how I at a lot of times bring the Eklavya into play, because what if Drona does not approve? My coaching is still my coaching.
Does your mother need any approval from anyone, any validation that she's not a great cook?
No? So
Neither do you.
neither do I. So that's I don't know how we ended up at this point in here, but yeah. So that's the space I really want to work in terms of making it coaching. Like I said, it's its own space and its own religion. To coaching becoming as simple as breathing. That's my
It's a very
thought process.
simple practice. We have made it complicated. I've spoken about this in my book as well. It's very simple. It's just being human. That's what also my coaching principle at the level 1 education that we do, where I'm the director of education. That is the coaching philosophy, being human.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's all.
Absolutely. And
What more do
we
you
haven't
need?
spoken about your book.
Yeah, what more do you need, right? I mean, you both being such seasoned coaches, I would love to hear from you. I mean, do we need anything beyond being human when we're talking about it?
Absolutely no.
And regarding your second part of the question, that how do we remember the books and the names and the sometimes to navigate the world, to do the work that you wish to do, you also need to be performing the act of being knowledgeable.
Okay, you'll have to go deeper into that.
That people take you seriously, right? I'm being very, very open and
So, very, very, very beautiful answers. I'd say, it's something that makes you pause, makes you think, and also brings so many perspectives into play. But I have two more questions. I'll steal two more.
yes, please.
So, if you were laughter, what would you be? How would you sound like? Second, if you were a soul animal, or you were an animal less, you had that space, who would that look, or what would that look like? So two questions. I know we don't basically patch questions in coaching, but I anyways them.
I guess if I heard you correctly, is how would I sound like if I was laughter,
Yes,
and what would my soul animal be?
correct.
I think you've already heard me laugh quite a couple of times here. I think if you were to equate Payal with the sensation of laughter, there wouldn't be a laugh, there would be a smile. You wouldn't probably hear a laugh. Maybe at best a giggle. And whole animal. Whole animal is definitely, most definitely eagle.
Eagle. Mm-hmm. How so? Why so?
For various reasons, some strange, some weird, some very, very anchoring, is because I tend to dream a lot about eagles. I wouldn't know why. Most of the times I'm being protected by the eagle in the dreams where I'm being attacked. Sometimes I see myself, just, how would you call it? I'm merging into the eagle in the dream itself. And then when I see eagles in sky, I'm very fascinated. Usually very few things hold my attention, but if I see an eagle, which we rarely do these days, I somehow am in rapt attention until unless the eagle, I lose the sight of the eagle, I tend to stay there for minutes or extended period of time it has to be. And I think I also identify with the qualities that we have identified being good, or I would rather wish to. So there was a question, who isn't Payal and who is Payal, right? So who is Payal maybe is a wish, a desire, because I don't think we're all like this, we are in the making. I would always wish to soar. I wouldn't want solitude to scare me. And I would wish to glide through life with great majesty, grace. And because a keen observer. I mean, so many qualities, right? I share this very humbly and not with any arrogance, but most importantly, grace and acceptance of solitude.
Beautiful.
And would you believe it, Sunil? This podcast is already going for 90 minutes now.
And I will.
Almost more than 90 minutes.
So we were talking about eagles, and eagles for me, when you said eagles, it also came to me with whatever you were sharing in terms of uh, your journey in terms of being possibly a medium, right? So Vishnu's medium is the eagle, and the possibly in terms of the world, it is somebody who holds the world together. He is the Shesha. So you are also in a place, a medium towards something in terms of what you are doing, in terms of coaching, in terms of enabling, channeling, whatever that is. So that's what came to me, while when you said eagle.
Wow. Lovely, lovely, and this brings me to another expression in Buddhism. We are mediums for our own unique missions. So Buddhism
For
says,
our
so we are mediums for our own unique mission, right?
absolutely.
So, uh, because I think we are in a world which is so conflicted and falling apart and dismembered and fragmented. And when the question, the existential question, why am I here? What am I doing here? Who am I? And that it is leading to very sad losses of life when people choose to do that. Was a beautiful answer when I encountered Buddhism, that you all have a unique mission which can only be fulfilled by you. And that is the purpose of your life. And the purpose of your life is to find that mission. And Buddhism also redefined that word for me, because Buddhism never uses the word find. Sunil and Shrish, it always uses the word awaken. It always uses the word awaken, which means it is already there. It's already there. I've just forgotten. I've forgotten who I am. I've forgotten why I'm here. I've forgotten what is my purpose. All that I need to do is awaken to. Awaken to my Buddha nature is what they say. Awaken to my mission, what they say. And awaken to the fact that all life, living and non-living. And I think that's what we are doing in coaching. We are awakening to the fact that I am a whole human and that the client in front of me is soul.
Wow. Now I know why Buddhism and coaching for you is so easily, in the same resonance. So I would maybe ask before Shrish takes over. You had two questions for us, one for Shrish and one for me. What would that be?
Okay, so am I asking it right now or before Shrish answers it?
Yeah, you can take your time. I think if you want to hold on to that pause while Shirish asks the next question,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, because I'm not going to let you guys off so easy, right? Let me get into my teacher mode and
Yes.
Bloom's taxonomy. So I'm not going to let you at the understanding level. Let me
The
come,
5 level Shirish.
so let me come to
Okay, so yeah, so let me take it forward now. So so today we are going to have a very unusual ending to a podcast with Payal asking both of us a question. I had just one question to ask, and I think I'll be moved from the coach's space and answer that myself and invite if more insights are there from Payal. So I would have asked, like we always do at the end of the coaching as a podcast conversation, what drives you at the core? I know two answers that she would give. One is service, and second is finding the purpose of my life. Finding the purpose of my life. Is there anything else you like to add to it? What drives you at the core?
what drives all of us at the core is what drives me at the core. Is that we all essentially, all of us essentially, without exception, we wish to be happy. Now, what
Now you opened a Pandora's box, Payal. What is happiness for you?
I'm glad that you asked that question. I mean, I would ever never be able to repay my debt of gratitude to my mentor for opening my eyes to such wisdom and knowledge. So I may be still at a very novice level in practicing them. He speaks about absolute happiness and transient. And he says the the yearning of all life is to be. And we all know that Buddha talked about the middle way, right? The middle path. He didn't believe in asceticism. He didn't believe in nirvana. He said, I'm here right now in this world. And my only question is, how can you? That is why the middle way. Now, transient happiness, I shocked. We're doing this call. We're having a great time. I might go and treat myself to a nice chocolate brownie after this, patting myself in the back. Maybe I put both of you in the spot which I was intending to. Sorry, I wasn't. Transient happiness, right? Absolute happiness, which is indestructible. And that comes into being only when it is independent of the external, and only dependent on me. When I'm not swayed by circumstances, people, situations, which is absolutely impossible to do in this community. But can I continue to strive and seek to anchor myself within? And how do I do that is the next question. Right? I'm sure Shrish would have asked the questions, I'm answering it all. It's very easy to say. I will not be triggered by, say it very simply, if Sunil was to say, how will you explain it to a 10-year-old? You will not be triggered by the external. You will continue to stay grounded within. Right? How do you do that? It's through practice. That's why, again, the synergy, right? Coaching and Buddhism. We talk about presence of the coach, right? And how do you cultivate that presence? Through different practices. Different people will follow different practices, mindfulness, walking, grounding exercises, whatever. In Buddhism also we do something similar, we call it chanting. But how do you anchor yourself within, where you're not swayed by the external? It's a beautiful example that I may share with you with your permission. I think it explains everything. He says to take 2 glasses of water, 2 clear glasses of water, drinking water, whatever. One glass has no sediment, the clear glass of water. Second glass is still a clear glass of water, but with a sediment. Now you take a stirrer or a spoon and you start stirring the water in the clear glass of water with no sediment. So continue for days, years, and months. What will happen to the water? Nothing. You stir the water, which is apparently clear, but has a sediment at the bottom. What will happen to that water? It will become muddy within a matter of seconds. So he says the external is the spoon or the stirrer, your environment, the people, and the situations. And the glass of water is you, and the sediment is that you hold. He says now, if you don't have the sediment, and we say, no, the person made me angry. The person is getting to me. They're making my life difficult. They're not allowing me that promotion. They're not allowing me this. I am miserable because of that. It's just not possible, because if you have a clear glass of water, you are a clear glass of water with no sediment, nothing in this world, in the environment around you, can stir you. Person did not make me angry. I hold anger. And I just needed to trigger for that anger to manifest. So he says, clean the vessel, the Buddha within. Continue to polish, practice. And how do we polish and practice? Again, the means and the ways and the frameworks can be. Shrish, does that answer your question?
As long as it satisfies you, it answers my question.
Oh,
As long as you think you've answered the question, it answers my question.
yeah, because I think now you are pulling my leg because I'm going on.
No, absolutely not. Not at all.
No, I
So
think
he's being
this really convinced me to the core, because I can never ever say ever again, and please don't publish this, that my husband made me angry. I hold anger with him. Otherwise, nobody can make it. Yeah, injustice, I would definitely be angry at that. I need that emotion. I need to talk about fairness and justice. Apart from that, no.
So, Payal, the field is all yours.
So you get 2 shots at it. So one for Sunil, one for Shrish. So if you want to
Or
take
maybe
my,
both for Sunil.
give it to Shrish directly. So you can give both to Shrish. I don't mind. So,
No, I'll pass on both to you, Sunil.
Before that, I'm going to answer the PCC marker question, which I don't know whether you asked me or not. Is when we speak about coaching the person and not the problem, right? What are we speaking
Right.
about? Coaching the person is, because we are saying that internally, the values and the beliefs. So challenging the client at their values and beliefs. That is what the sediment we are talking about. And my question to you is very simple. There's one question to both of you.
all right.
And simple is complex.
No, it's a very simple question, Shrish. And Sunil, for both of you, is what makes you happy?
What makes
Sorry, I
me
missed it.
happy?
What makes you happy, Shrish?
Can I go first?
Oh, yeah, please, Sunil.
Yeah. So I think for me, the moment I become Pungidasa, which is the moment I become the writer, that is the moment of transient to absolute happiness, because it allows me to look at the world in a very, very different way. And very beautifully, it's about the union with the deeper cosmos. And Yeah, I don't exist at that point. That's the only point where I don't exist. So Sunil does not exist at that point. It's something else that right. So the transitionary point between an event to the poet taking over is for me the biggest happiness point.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's so wonderful. Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I learned from you, right? I learned from experience. So what you spoke about is flow, right?
Hmm,
As we say in Ikigai, or as Carl Newport says in his book Deep Work. So this is like when you're doing the deep work.
correct.
So my question is, it's not a question actually. This is something I wish. This is something I wish to know as a, because I'm very curious. Is when you said, when you transition from being Sunil to the poet, you stop existing. And
Yes.
so what exists at that
Nothing and everything. So it is 1, 0, and infinity at the same point.
time?
So I had to decode that, right? So I don't exist because at that point there is no ego. There's no Sunil writing that. So everything that exists at that point of time is so the one or the shunya, right? So depending on what you call as one and shunya.
Right.
And to my own interpretation or the reflective interpretation of that is that I don't exist at that point, but the entire universe exists at that point. That's downloading to me as the medium at that point. And I have gone a little ahead and say from a third person's point of view looking at it, that's where the happiness is. That 1 and 0 at some point is about infinity. Uh, so what if there is no 1 and what if there is no 0? What is there at that point? So that everything is there. It's that infinite space. So all three coexist in that space. And I don't know if I can explain it to you, because the moment I see something as a word or as a trigger, I've already stopped being Sunil. So there's no Sunil the individual, there's no Sunil the body, there's Sunil the ego, and it moves to a deeper unification. I don't know if I can put it as God, spirituality, whatever you call it, but poetry at that point. It goes there, and whatever flows the most naturally, the transitionary point is where I'm the happiest, because I know now that is that something else is taking over. And even at a deeper post reflection of the event happening, I felt the happiest. It feels like the universe existed with me for a moment and went back. So that is, I don't know, the greatest level of thrill you'll ever get.
It's so amazing. Can I draw a few, what I'm understanding from this,
Absolutely.
without taking away the sacredness of what you shared? So one that you said consistently is that you disappear, and then you say and you disappeared, and it's only the universe that is there, right? And then you spoke about shunya, and then you also said, but before closing, that it is you and the universe together. Before again, it is back to being what it is. Right? So amazing. Like I see three different aspects to it. So what comes to my mind is like how the Bible begins and how our Indic epics begin is like there was nothing and then there was light. That's how Bible begins. So I see a lot of, as you use the word resonance earlier in the podcast. Such a beautiful metaphor to that. There was nothing and then there is light. Then there's nothing and there's a poem that it's coming on its own, right? And at the same time, you also said there is maybe this fleeting moment when you and the universe are together. It's not you completely having disappeared, right? It's like this amazing unison of partnership or whatever. You are one, at the same time, you know that I'm not with you. Now, when we speak of coaching, we say the coach doesn't exist.
Correct.
Right? So when we are able to arrive at that point where only the client exists, And that is the whole universe. And I don't
Oh, beautiful.
exist. And it's all about the poem, all about the client. But then there's also this point where the universe and Sunil is together, where the partnership of the client and the coach is there. Imagine if we were to do that with that, because when you spoke, you were overflowing with love. Because I will stay away with from the word passion. You were in the flow. You are in the flow, and you spoke about it with love. So imagine if this flow and love seeps into our relationship. This
Beautiful.
is
Yeah.
what coaching, true coaching is. How we define its words and definition.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think I like the way you interpret that, or I like the way you process that. And you did it like a true teacher, because like this is what the student is sharing, and say, hey student, this is what it is.
No, there's no intent of interpretation. It's just
No,
that
no, I'm just pulling a leg.
you defined it so beautifully, and I realize you're just defining any, and this could be anything, right? Anybody doing anything. This could be a doctor walking into a operation OT, right? The operation theater and performing the surgery. But if it gets into the flow and he's just the person in front of him who needs to be brought back to life.
That's
There
it.
is flow, and then nobody else exists. So imagine if we were all to do our service in this manner.
Beautiful existence, yeah. And happiness, because at that point you are completely
And we are
happy.
saying
So
we are not happy. I want to become happy. Happiness is right there. We are not doing it the right way.
absolutely true, absolutely true. Yes. Shrish, so now you have to make the answer better than mine, so go ahead.
So she's used her two chances of questions, so I think I'm safe now. And honestly, I don't have that much words or that much depth of knowledge that you both possess,
You'll have to stop
and you can
saying
give
that.
such beautiful answers. No, in the
Yes,
sense,
you-
but if you ask me, I'll just use a very simple line to say what happiness for me is that I'm happy whenever I'm myself, that simple, authentic self, which is all heart.
This is all?
That is happiness, which is all heart,
All heart, okay.
nothing more. I don't know anything more than that.
Isn't that amazing? And such a beautiful answer it is. Authentic. Authentic.
So I think before she asks a follow-up question, this is a nice place to start that podcast. Thank you so much, Payal, for tolerating us. I would say
You.
that, and
Likewise. Likewise.
thank you, Payal, so much for bringing the concepts of Buddhism, coaching, leadership, and Kalyang, and a lot more concepts, history, the way you explained history. And I think this episode is going to be a master class. Now, using the word master, also, I should not be after what you told me about the master part of it, but the master class in a lot of issues, a lot of subjects, especially Buddhism and coaching, and your passion for service, finding the purpose of life through Buddhism and coaching is very evident for all of us. Thank you so very much, and thank you, Sunil. I had a wonderful time hosting this episode.
Once again, Payal, thanks for this episode. Even in its existence, has its own ebbs and flows, and even to get to here, I think we had to go through so many iterations and so many conversations to be here. So graceful and so grateful to all the forces that brought us here. Thank you for this thing, and yeah, so more power to you in the amazing work that you continue to do. And we're always happy to do episode 2, 3, 4, and we're also happy to be in your podcast sometime.
So thank you for this podcast. But I'm absolutely honored, as I shared earlier. It's been a great privilege to be able to talk about my mentor's work, about such a beautiful practice of Buddhism, and I think for that matter, any spiritual practice to which I'm not initiated to yet. At the same time, to such beautiful human beings, you, Sunil, Shrish, and Satish at the back end. I think you're doing amazing work in bringing people and affording the space where they can share their story with such love, warmth, openness, candor, and as we say, in coaching, a space where you feel safe. So I will continue to be grateful for a very, very long time that I was able to share this time with you and we were able to have these discussions. As I said, I'm not no authority on anything. I just speak from what experiences have shaped me and what I believe. So thank you so much again, all of you. And to Changepreneurs Podcast.